Hey everybody, it's Pax. We are really going fast forward with new content these days, aren't we? This week we got to see a bunch of new spoilers from some content creators, and now we're taking a look at the latest Parallel Investigator, Zoey Samaras, who, like Ashcan Pete before her, has not been printed with a scenario. Zoey has the same stat line as her original front with the same traits. Her reaction to gain resources on engaging an enemy has been replaced with the following two abilities. Reaction. After you deal one or more damage to an enemy, add one blessed token to the Chaos bag, limit once per phase. Free triggered ability. Before you reveal Chaos tokens during an attack, remove 3 blessed tokens from the Chaos bag. This attack deals +1 damage, limit once per round. Also, her Elder Sign, which did a bonus damage during an attack, has been replaced with +1 for each blessed token in the Chaos bag, and she has 1 less maximum health than her original form. So there's quite a bit going on here, but it's interesting to see another Guardian with inherent bless generation like Sister Mary, as well as an inherent bless payoff. There's a ton of cards in the game that allow you to get damage on enemies outside of the investigation phase, which has me thinking that adding 2 or more blesses per round when enemies are present isn't going to be too far out of the question. But let's take a look at her backside to understand which tools she'll have at her disposal to leverage this. Her backside has a deck size of 30, Guardian cards level 0 to 3, Blessed cards level 0 to 4, Charm cards level 0 to 4, Neutral cards level 0 to 5, and up to 5 other Mystic cards level 0, with no new deck building requirements, just advanced signature cards, which we'll have a look at in a moment. Not having access to Guardian cards level 4 and 5 does shave off a lot of really strong weapons, but given her front side has that inherent bonus damage mechanism, I think the intent here is to basically turn anything that generates blessed tokens into additional copies of Vicious Blow, which is a pretty good card to have stored in your Chaos bag as tokens. But before we dig too much into the ramifications of the rest of that deck building, let's take a look at those advanced signatures. Zoey's Cross is the advanced version here. It's a symbol of conviction instead of a symbol of righteousness. The original reaction ability is the same, just with a bit of different, more modernized wording, as well as this additional free triggered ability, remove 2 blessed tokens from the Chaos bag, engage an enemy at your location. This one's pretty interesting because with the parallel front selected, you have lost your ability to get the damage from the cross for a net 0 resources, but instead you're turning 1 resource into 1 damage and a blessed token, as well as providing a way for Zoey to engage enemies outside of the investigation phase, which allows for more opportunities to add blessed tokens to the bag. And finally, we'll take a look at Smite the Wicked, which is, again, identical to the previous version, except for 1 line added, which reads, the attached enemy gets +2 fight and +2 health. Ouch. This seems like it could be a really annoying upgrade to this weakness. In the scenarios where Smite the Wicked does a really serious screw job to you, Wizard of the Order and Essex Express, this just makes it even harder to turn that into a winning position. That being said, the advanced cross does such a good job of supporting Zoey's new front side that I think it's an interesting compromise, applying 2 health to the enemy versus getting some extra damage out of the cross. Finally, the last thing I want to mention here about Smite the Wicked and Zoey's cross as well is that since Zoey is not being released with a scenario through which you upgrade or downgrade your signature cards, you have to fully commit to either both upgraded or both unupgraded. To me, this is a bit of a downgrade compared to the other Parallel Investigators, and I wouldn't lie and say that it feels fine. It's a little disappointing that you have to treat Zoey's advanced signatures and weaknesses differently than other Parallel Investigators we've seen. I feel like a scenario where Zoey is being called by God to run around a map indiscriminately killing a bunch of enemies is kind of easy to imagine coming together, so yeah, I'm a little disappointed on that front, but overall, I think that she seems really interesting. So let's revisit some of those implications of her deck building against her cross and parallel abilities. Obviously, Zoey is missing out on Holy Spear level 5, but to be honest, I feel like that might have just ended up stepping on Sister Mary's toes a little bit too much, so I'm not too fussed about that. She gets her free triggered ability to turn 3 blesses into bonus damage, and I think that lower level weapons will be plenty to manage sufficient damage output. The big things I'm interested in this card pool are cards that she uses to maximize her bless output, the cards she uses to keep blesses in circulation for longer, and what exactly the implication of 0 to 4 Blessed and 0 to 4 Charms are against her stat line and in exchange for level 4 and 5 Guardian cards. For ways to maximize her reaction ability to add a Bless each phase, you can use any cards that deal damage during a free triggered ability window, as all the phases have at least one free triggered ability window. Beat Cop 2 is your kind of bare bones, basic, universal answer. You're also going to have any of the any free triggered ability window cards, like Get Over Here level 2. You might also look at Guard Dog level 2 to engage an enemy outside of the investigation phase, and then get some of that damage in from the Guard Dog's reaction ability. Survival Knife is a really good option for making sure that damage is consistently available during the enemy phase, and also plays really well with Zoey's Cross, whether by snatching enemies off other players after your last action, or allowing you to engage a hunter enemy with prey that's forced to engage someone else at your location. For Guard Dog and Survival Knife, you do have to keep in mind that she only has 8 maximum health, so you're going to have like a little bit less leeway on how much of a beating you can take. But overall, I don't think Zoey will be wanting for ways to maximize how she can get Blessed tokens using her parallel front into the bag. And that leads me into wondering, how am I spending my Blessed tokens? And obviously that's our +1 damage. So turning 3 Blessed tokens into +1 damage seems really strong to me. Like, Keep Faith and Tempt Fate are now effectively extra Vicious Blows, and that's really cool. Having 6 Vicious Blows in your deck is pretty strong. But it's also probably going to run out of steam really quickly if you're constantly nuking 3 of the Blessed tokens you've put in the bag. From there, you're looking at some cards like Sacred Covenant and Nephthys. Sacred Covenant will help ensure that investigators at your location aren't excessively drawing Blessed tokens out of the bag, and Nephthys will ensure that you basically never need to remove Blessed tokens from the bag unless you're interested in returning them to the pool for even more damage output. I'd go as far as saying that Nephthys is probably a shoo-in for your first 20 or so experience when you're playing Parallel Zoey. It's just such a strong way to ensure you're not burning through your blesses too quickly whenever you need that bonus damage. She's expensive, she gets in the way of your beat cops, but that many +1 damage pings available for like the rest of the game just seems super strong to me. As for the remainder of the Blessed and Charmed level 0 to 4 selections, there's definitely a lot of like cute interactions available. Like, obviously you've got the majority of the Innsmouth Blessed cards at your disposal. I mentioned earlier Keep Faith, but you've also got Radiant Smite, Rite of Sanctification, Spirit of Humanity, even Signum Crucis. But a common thread across a lot of the Blessed Guardian cards is sealing the Blessed tokens on them and using them as uses. And I think this might be something you can run into with Parallel Zoey as a problem. Obviously, Rite of Sanctification is going to do a really good job making up for not having those bonus resources on engagement anymore, but it's also going to gum up how many blesses you're actually able to keep in the bag at any given time. Say you're thinking about a bless build and you say, oh, I want Favor of the Sun to guarantee I draw blesses, and I want my Rite of Sanctification, and I've got my Nephthys in play. Well, you've got an awful lot of bless tokens being held on cards without many in the bag to actually turn into the bonus damage. And I'm not saying it's necessarily going to be a problem. You can obviously use these cards pretty quickly, but it's something to be mindful of when you're making your card choices and maybe trying to avoid having so many cards that store bless tokens that you can't get your bonus damage taken out of the bag reliably. Beyond that, there's also the blessed cards that I just routinely forget are blessed cards, much like I did with Jim and cursed cards. So we've got Counterspell, Alter Fate, Crystalline Elder Sign, the Survivor version of Grisly Totem, Shrine of the Morai. Nothing there is like particularly exciting to me, but when you're looking at ways to be able to spend XP, when you don't have level 5 cards available of your main class, these are the kind of things that you're going to be looking for. And next, if you've ever mucked around with Amina, level 0 to 4 charm access is a lot wider than you might think. But unlike Amina, you have 2 skill values at a base of 4, one of which is willpower, which makes some of the really strong charms a lot more useful, such as Lucky Cigarette Case. But Even all of the doomed charms that we saw in Scarlet Keys are a lot stronger than they would be in Amina's hands just by virtue of having one more willpower. Yes, you still have to accept all that risk of the doom, but hey, it's definitely there. There's also these really cool masks that we're seeing in the spoilers for the upcoming Hemlock Veil box with the charm trait, and I happen to think those cards seem particularly strong for level 0 cards, and Zoey will get her pick of the best one for whatever she's trying to do with her build. You also have full access to Dream Diary and all of its upgrades. You can pair that with the Seeker Grizzly Totem, which is a charm, despite being cursed, it is a charm. And suddenly you're looking at pretty high skill values and a consistent draw engine that gets going pretty fast, albeit at the cost of your signature or 3 XP for Relic Hunter. And on top of all those options within charms, you do have level 3 Guardian cards, which means Sleuth can be used as a way to afford playing and using these cards. Sleuth also lets you play Tomes, and it also lets you play Tactics, and there's an awful lot of Tactics in the level 0 to 3 Guardian pool. So I could definitely see something going on with Sleuth, maybe even something going on with Boxing Gloves. Pull out a bunch of Tactics and Spirits, get those going. Cool stuff. Anyways, I want to thank you very much for watching. It's been a while since I've been making stuff regularly, and the spoiler season always makes it so much easier to get motivated to make stuff. My next Scarlet Keys video I'm hoping to record that sometime this week. I've also got a sit-down chat with Philian, where we just kind of like riffed on some of the new cards that have been spoiled over the past little while. So keep an eye out for that in the coming days. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.